Desert Island Discs.
Welcome, it's a fresh new edition of Desert Island Discs, your premium personality profile program. On the program, an incredible lady with an interesting, but I say extraordinary life story. She's a jack of all trades, and she actually doesn't have one particular way she would want to be described. If anything, she wants to be described by everything that she loves. For that matter, I'll allow her to introduce herself. Welcome to the program, Damalie Ssali.
Thank you, Simon.
A basket of so many things. A life enthusiast, an accountant by training, a traveler, a lover of life, and everything in between. Most importantly, you also love your well-brewed cup of coffee. Tell us more about yourself.
So, I'm Damalie Ssali. I grew up at Makerere Kavule. It's opposite Makerere University Primary School. That's where my parents' house is, and that's where I grew up. I am one of 8 siblings. I'm the last born, actually. Yes. I'm the last one, and I grew up at Makerere Kavule. And my father is Damalie Ssali. He's a retired quantity surveyor.
I love the way you stress the Mwami as opposed to Mr. How you refer to him when growing up?
He prefers to be referred to as Damalie Ssali. Yes.
And then Mami is Omuchara.
Muchara. Muchara. So my mom is a modern day gynecologist, you say. She passed away, but she was a modern day gynecologist. And so she had a maternity clinic and she would deliver babies.
Wow.
She was very busy, yes. Incredibly busy, actually.
And I think she led by example. 8 children.
Yes, while having a career.
While having a career. And I think she delivered all of you by herself, didn't she?
I don't know, I wasn't there.
Well, you should have asked, maybe.
Maybe I should have.
As the last born in a family of 8, you must have been extremely pampered.
I wouldn't like to think so, but a lot of people think so.
How about to the best of your recollection? When you look back at that household, did you ever do any household chores, especially if your elder siblings are around?
Well, not too much. I am a bit of an introvert, so I prefer to read and watch TV. So those are the main activities I did. But then I also love dogs and cats. So I spent time washing the dogs. So that's one of the things I had to do. I had to wash
the love for dogs was innate in you, or you saw someone do it and you did it along with them and eventually picked up the love?
No, I've loved them just from the time I could see, because we've always had dogs and cats. So it's in my bedroom was always the animals, and my mom would come around and be like, "Wow, you're right." So we would, but I've known of the animals since I could see. So I just love animals. And at home, because I was the one who would ask for puppies. Whenever I would see one, maybe at a relative's, I would ask for a puppy, and then I'll come home with a puppy. And they'll be like, "Okay, it's your dog, you wash it."
So you kept accumulating dogs?
Yeah, so we had a couple of dogs.
What was the most amount of dogs you ever had in that house?
At one point, we had 4 dogs.
4? Yeah,
but also my siblings loved, dogs.
Okay.
So, but I remember at one point we had 4, and it was always my job to wash them. So I would wash them. And then I also grew up with a lot of cats. So I love cats. And then I do recall there was a cat that I got that was black, entirely black. And you know what people say about black cats?
About exactly.
So
and that didn't bother you?
Yes. No, it didn't bother me, because for me it was a cat. So, I loved it. But then I remember when we had visitors at home and they would see the black cat walking around and they'd be like,
So was that usually your trick of getting visitors stay shorter than they are welcome?
Just send the black cat in.
Well, very interesting. And fast forward, today you have a full-time job with Trademark East Africa, where you're doing incredible stuff in what they call it, fostering trade between countries. I see you doing quite a bit of traveling lately, to appreciate the country a lot better than many Ugandans actually do. And yes, you have an ideation corner. You have, there's so much you're doing. You're juggling so many balls in the air. How do you manage to do that in a 24-hour day?
I think if you love things, you make time for them. So yes, I still have the 24 hours, but because these are things I love, it's easy for me to prioritize them. So if I hated, for example, my job, it would be a struggle for me to do that job, because every time you go to work, you're just upset about it. But then I love to travel. It's something I enjoy. So you make time for it. So say when I went to Fort Portal, I took a weekend, just a long weekend off. Friday, Saturday, Sunday, and then I went to Fort Portal. I saw all these things. And then, I came back because I love those things. So it's easy to do things you love. It's easy for you to make time for the things you love because, it's your life. So to make yourself happy, you do the things you love. So I'm fortunate that a lot of the things I do, I actually love them. And in a way, it's a way to live life. Is make sure you you're occupying your time with things you enjoy. And sometimes people don't even know what they enjoy. So the first thing to do is figure out what you enjoy.
Maybe some of them, it's a bit prohibitively expensive to afford the little luxuries that they would otherwise enjoy.
Oh, well, if we take travel, for example, okay, fine, going to Fort Portal is definitely expensive. But if you love to travel, you can actually go around your neighborhood and climb up a hill and just see the beauty. It just needs your legs.
The guys who love going to bars in such circumstances will look at you and say, look at Damalie, she doesn't know how constrained we are in doing the things we love to do.
No, if you love to go to the bar, then definitely walk to the bar.
Well,
and you still be happy. No, they said you can actually make a bar in your house or your compound.
Damalie. The aura, the ambience, the music.
The company.
Thank you. Now you know. Well, let's get back to your life story growing up in Makerere Kabule. In there, running around, playing, being like any other girl, watching dogs, like you said, and schools. Which schools did you go to?
So I went to Makerere University Nursery School, which is interesting.
Okay. I love it. Makerere University.
Nursery school. Yes. So the nursery school was inside Makerere University, and the professors' kids used to go to that nursery school. So we were very few. You know, I really enjoyed it. I remember I used to be walked to that nursery school. I have these memories of it because I really enjoyed my time at the nursery school. So
what, to the best of your recollection, do you remember enjoying the most? The rhymes?
It was the swings. I spent a lot of time on the swings. We had a swing that we just go back and forth. So I spent a lot of time there. And I do remember one day I fell off and then I hit my head. And I had a bit of a wound when I go back home.
Well,
and my mom was very upset.
Like,
no, it's moved, luckily. Because it was like right there. So my mom was like, why are you swinging? But anyway, I continued with it. So I do remember that. Also something I vividly remember because we used to walk from home, and then you go through Makerere, and then you go to the nursery school, was the botanical gardens. I think they're not there anymore. Makerere University had botanical gardens in there.
I think around
near Africa, yeah.
And
between Africa, Livingstone was on this side.
Yes,
and the upper half. Yes. It was somewhere there. So I
don't know whether it's still accessible to the public or you can walk through it, but yeah. Back
then, you could walk through it, and I would see, the ponds, and then you see these plants. There was this large plant that was float, and it was like a plate. Wow. And I enjoyed seeing that, and then the fish. So for some reason I remember the swinging, and then the plants, the botanical gardens more than I remember the classes. But
it had to be you.
Yes. And then from there I went to Nakasero Primary School. My dad's office was on Kampala Road, so he would take me to school, then go to work, and then pick me up, and then we go back home. And then I was there for first P1, I think P2, and then in P3 my mom got me a place at Buganda Road. Why? Because Buganda Road was more convenient for my dad. It wasn't about me. It was about the convenience. So it was Buganda Road was closer to my dad's office, so it was much more convenient than say taking me to Nakasero. So I went to Buganda Road, and my primary school was a struggle because I am an introvert. So going to very crowded schools is a big problem for me. So at nursery school it was great. We're about 20. It was very small. But then when I went to the primary schools, these are crowded places. So you were like 60 in a class in a stream, like 60. Same at Buganda Road, it was that much. So because I'm very introverted, it was a huge shock to my system to go to this. So I always used to sit at the back of the class. I'm one of these students who I would go to school with these people and they don't know me, because I would always be the quietest person who sits at the back of the class, who just tries to basically hide from everything. Yeah.
Mind their own business.
Yes. And I would read what I did then in those schools was I would read a lot of the storybooks to help me to zoom out. So I would read a lot of storybooks. So I was an average student, was never, the top 10. If you remember those report cards, I don't know if they do them anymore, where they would just list everyone's name. Exactly. Not confidential at all.
No, there was no confidentiality.
So whenever you see my report,
days when the country was so transparent.
Yes, you have every child's name listed. So
complete to their grades.
Yes. Yeah, including their grades, math, this. Everyone would see everyone's grade. But so if you were looking at the report card, if you're looking for my name, you'd have to start from the middle. I was never, in those top places. But the things I used to do well, English, I did well, not because I was paying a lot of attention in class, but because I was reading a lot.
Well, not much has changed. You sound exceptionally good in English.
Thank you. So I was reading that. Then math, I like math because my dad being a quantity surveyor, I had grown up seeing him sit at the dining table with his calculator and writing little digits, because he's a quantity surveyor. So he had these huge pieces of paper that then he would, draw
graphs and
and write the little numbers. So numbers were easy for me. I felt like I could relate to them. I still wasn't the best. I was still average, but it didn't require me a lot of effort to
grasp them. And all that,
so after my primary school, then I went to.
Now, what about science?
Science, not so much. Mm-hmm. Not so much. I guess I was in class. I was totally average.
So are you saying that in that class, you never picked up a friend? Like, you know how all primary school kids be? You have a little dear friend with whom you play with or have chats and all that?
Not really. But the storybooks were my friends.
Wow.
Yeah, I was really very introverted.
And you never got anyone trying to break that wall into you?
No. Kids, I guess they minded their business. So, and I would just, read the storybooks. Yes. Then I'll always be sitting at the back of the class. So I was a loner to
And the teachers?
To speak. Yeah, the teachers, I think, didn't pay a lot of attention to me. We were like 60 in a class. So,
it's too
much. Yeah. So
there's not enough love to go around.
No. So they wouldn't, if you want to sit at the back and be in your own little world, you can be left, that way. So I remember even like at breaks, like the break time where you go to the canteen and it was so crowded. Mm-hmm. There's so many people yelling, kabalagala, whatever. They're trying to buy it. So I would go to the canteen. It was just so noisy. Then I wouldn't buy anything. So I'd usually eat lunch. I wouldn't eat anything at break. So I'd eat lunch. Because back then I didn't know that I was an introvert. I just thought, what is wrong with me? Why don't I want to be around very many people? But that's how I dealt with it. I would just, stay in my end. So a lot of people I went to school with actually don't even know me.
They don't remember that?
No, they don't know me. They don't. It's only when you mention, I went to Buganda, right? And they're like, really? Which, what? I'm like,
then when you mention the same class, they're like.
But then there were kind of many streams, and I don't care much. So I don't talk a lot about my education because it wasn't it wasn't so enjoyable for me.
Oh dear. Yeah. Let's make it a little bit enjoyable for us. Yeah. Play our first song.
Oh, yeah. So the first song I'm going to play is Mose Radio, and the song is called Mama. I remember when he just passed away and his album came out, and one of the songs he had was Mama. And it just reminded me so much of my mother who passed away. And the lyrics, it's the lyrics that actually I like, because he's talking about his mother and how she had a beautiful smile. My mom had a beautiful smile. So it just made me kind of think about my mother, who was very incredibly intelligent, incredibly clever, very funny. So very beautiful as well.
We can see that the apple didn't fall from a mango tree. So let's listen to this wonderful song by Mose Radio. When we return, it's more about your life story. We'll be right back.
Thanks.
Desert Island Discs. Mama, what the city muruja singa ke wansunira kako kamara. Mama.
Welcome back to the program. It's Damalie Ssali of so many things, including Trademark East Africa, a lover of life, and coffee, amongst so many things that she loves to read, to be herself. She claims to be introverted, but that doesn't seem to be the case until you speak to her. Damalie, so school times, not much to write home about. But let's go back home. Is that a space where you were not an introvert?
Yes. So an introvert kind of opens up to people who are close to them. So the introvert person can have, 5 close people who they talk to. So at home, I was like the freest person at home.
Really?
Yes, I'm very talkative. Like to my dad, I talk a lot. To my mom, like at home, I'm the loudest person actually, because, that's my
So
space.
you talked your life's share at home, and when you got out of home, you just couldn't say a thing.
I know.
And to your siblings, how was it?
So my siblings, okay, they were, older than me. What I enjoyed about them is the music. There was always a lot of music, in the house, especially during the holidays. So my parents tended to take them to boarding schools. I was the only one, I think, who was in nursery school and primary school in a day school. So during the holidays, all of them will, come home.
So that means that you possibly did not have a very close relationship with them, considering that they spent much of their time away from you.
Yeah, they're away. So I am close to them because I used to enjoy when they come in the holidays. That's when we listen to a lot of music, and then I would, get to read a lot of their novels. So I have 2 older sisters who also love to read. So I read a lot of their novels. So many adult novels I would read, and then sometimes my mom would find me reading one, and she'd be snatching it away from me, saying, "Tonakula to be reading that." So I do have a relationship with it, but probably I'm much more closer to my parents because I spent a lot of time with my parents. So I have a very close relationship, for example, with my dad. He's very close. We talk. We can be in silence happily.
I love that. We can be in silence happily.
Then he's a very funny guy as well. So, but he's only funny to people he's close with as well. I think he's also
he's like you. Yeah.
So I get his jokes. He's very sarcastic. So it's really fun. So I was close to them, and Actually, it's one of my brothers who taught me how to jog. So my brother, Kasyate Sam, he used to be an amateur boxer.
Wow.
And so he actually played.
He used to do much of the practice when you guys at home, right?
No. But he would practice in the compound. So he'll have a lot of his friends will come and then they'll do the shadow box stage.
So the trees in the compound have...
We had an avocado tree where he used to hang the punching bag. And then he would call me to time him. So he'd be like, okay, I'm punching this bag for the next 30 minutes. Then he'll punch the bag. Then he'll say, I'm going to do some shadow boxing for 30 minutes. And I'll time him. I'll stop. Then he'll do some skipping of the rope. And he's like, and then I'll stop. So I used to be like his major timer, but he's the one who taught me how to jog. So I remember in my S4 vacation, I was, at home eating everything. And then he was like, okay, you need to start jogging. I'm like, but why? And then he used to jog because he was, a boxer.
Athletic.
So he took me to jog with him up, they call it Chipipa. So we have a hill, we're on that hill, Makere Hill.
Makere Hill, yes.
So we'll come from the house, join the road, and then jog up to Chipipa. So he'll be like, when he was just teaching me, he would jog very slowly with me. But then eventually he would just let me jog with the dogs. So I'll leave the house with the dogs and then he'll go and then I'll jog after him. But the dogs would be the ones kind of like giving me company. So he told me, so I was close to them. And then my other brother, David Louis, but he's actually the Deputy Executive Director of Kasyate. So he, one of the things we connected a lot was on intellectual things. So he's the one who kept guiding me on, like when I failed my A-levels, I did mathematics, economics, and geography. I wanted to be a quantity surveyor like my dad. So yes.
When you failed, did you say?
I failed. I failed I didn't get enough points to enter Makere University on quantity surveying. So they gave me some other course, which I can't even remember, but I didn't want to do that. I wanted to be a quantity surveyor like my father. So when I failed, I was kind of stuck. I didn't know what to do. But he came and he said, you know what, Damalie, you're going to do SCCA. I didn't know what SCCA was. But he was like, yeah, you're doing it. You're going to become an accountant. I'm like, I just failed math. How can I be an accountant? But he had this ridiculous amount of confidence in me. So I was like, yeah, you're going to start studying SCCA. And so I was like, okay. And he did.
Was that confidence in you or he was just being bullish? Let's say it for what it is.
I like to think he's confident.
He won't kick you out of this city. Yes, we know he's a big shot in the town, but...
So he's like, yeah, you're doing SCCA. And then I started doing it. And he's the one actually who also got me to the UK. Because he did the visa applications for me. And then he was like, yeah, you're going to do SCCA in the UK because you're going to get, first class education, first class work experience. So it has to be in the UK.
It pays to have much older siblings because my research about you and your siblings is that you come 10 years after the guy that you follow.
Yeah.
So...
It helps because I didn't have issues with pocket money. When I also went to the UK, I was staying with my sister. So that helps. So you see. So, at least I didn't have to pay rent initially, so yeah. You
were extremely pampered.
No.
And you're avoiding to say yes to that. It's not a bad thing, Damalie. But I'm just imagining the guy that knew was their last born. And 10 years later, baby Damalie shows up.
Such a gap. So yeah, my siblings used to tease me a lot. They'll be like, Damalie was the mistake. And then my mom one time came out and said, no, I planned each and every one of my children. So
I think she, well, considering she was a dying and all that.
Yeah, I know. I would like to believe her, right?
So which secondary school did you go to?
So I went to Zambia Girls for one term. Zambia Girls School. I went there for my senior one, but only one term.
Why?
I just couldn't. You remember I said I'm introverted. So when I left primary school, remember I was going home every day in primary school, and then I relax. I'm in my environment. But now in secondary school, in Zambia Girls, it's full time. It's boarding. So you didn't have
introverted in class, dormitory,
but it's just so loud because we had the triple deckers that you sleep on. You sleep with your suitcase, and then there's a very tiny corridor in between the deckers, and then everything is timed. So in the morning at 5, the alarm goes off and all pandemonium just breaks out. Everyone is rushing to the bathrooms. I didn't know why we had to all rush to the bathrooms at the same time because I don't like crowds, so I wouldn't rush to the bathroom. I'll go after everyone has left. Then I can't get dressed. Most people have left. And then usually the prefects will find me in the dormitory still getting dressed. And then whenever they find people in the dormitory at a time, then they're like, you get punished by cleaning the cafeteria or the classes or the bathrooms. So I'd always be on punishment, not because I'm a very stubborn person, I'm not, but because I just wanted to do things when people just weren't doing them.
Yeah. Oh dear.
So it was a struggle. So I was like on every prefect's list every day. So at the end of the term, I remember my dad came to pick me up from school. And when you have a problem, they don't give you your report card. Yeah, your parent has to go and pick from the headmistress's office. So my dad came and I'm like, yeah, we have to go pick my report card in the headmistress's office. So we went there and the headmistress was telling him, yeah, your daughter is just so stubborn. We can't have her. She just, no, it's just too much. So when I was looking at me like, really, Damalie, stubborn? Anyway, so we left and they were like, yeah, she can't come back.
They expelled you just like that?
I don't want to call it expelled. I want to say we separated.
Damalie, always sanitizing everything that comes your way. This whole sanitization thing from COVID has really destroyed everything. So you really want to
cleaning up everything. So yeah, so when I went back home and then my mom returned in the evening and my dad was like, yeah, she can't go back to Zambia. But I also looked, in fact, when my mom saw me, the first thing she was like, are they not feeding you? I'm like, why? There's food. But I was just so skinny. Because again, even when we go to eat, the cafeteria was so crowded. So I'll be among the last ones. So you don't get the best food, and you know. And then break time again, I couldn't go buy anything because the cafeteria, the canteen was just too crowded.
Tell me something. Isn't that a condition? Being that introverted, that you can't stand crowds? There must be a name for it.
Yeah, being an introvert.
There's something deeper than that.
There's something deeper?
The guys in medicine would have a term for
Probably
it.
There's a term.
And some
a very long name.
You know, with an SIS or IS
at the end. Yes. A name that you probably can't pronounce. So and then, okay, of course, I didn't know how to deal with it. I didn't even know that I was introverted then. But I just thought I was struggling a lot. So I'd lost so much weight. So when my mom came home in the evening and she saw me, she was like, are they not feeding you? So I'm like, there's food. But I was just so skinny. And then I was now even deeper in my shell. I was much more quiet. Remember I told you I was talkative at home? But now I came back and I just couldn't talk that much. So my mom knew there's something wrong. So she contacted one of her cousins and she asked her, because that cousin who had a daughter like me, who was also introverted, but she was a class ahead of me. So,
in the same school?
No, in a different school. So my mom was asking her cousin, which school did you take her to? How was she doing? So, and then her cousin told her, well, she goes to Makonzi and she's happy with her school. She's never actually told me any problems. So guess what? My mom was like, yeah, that's it. You're going to Makonzi. Yeah. Makonzi is this school so far away. It's in Mubende district. And we used to go to KPC to get on the buses to take you to the school. And I go there. It was the best thing for me. It was, because it was one block of one class each stream. We were like 20 in a stream, and it was just one block, including the staff room and the headmaster's office. Just one block. And then we didn't have electricity. We had these steamers. I don't know if people know them. Yeah, those huge lanterns. Yeah, those ones.
Pressure lamps.
And those are the ones you use in the dormitory. Those are the ones you use also for the prep time. And then we used to fetch water at a borehole where you go on, jump on that. So, and it was a little bit of a distance away from the dormitory. So but it was so green. It was so spacious. It was so quiet. I totally thrived at Makonzi. It was the best. Then the dormitories, best place.
Why?
Because we had a single bed. There were no deckers. No, there were no deckers. You had your bed, you had a place to put your suitcase, and then they weren't divided up into classes. So I was like in a S1 sleeping next to an S4. So we had these adult conversations, or I don't know why I enjoyed them, but probably because I had so many older siblings.
Exactly.
So I tended to gravitate towards people who were much older, who were much more, I felt, sen. So, but the dormitories now help because you're sleeping next to an S4 kid or S2, and then, they weren't in classes. So I really enjoyed that. And then also when it got time to, bathrooms, they're not loud, and, you can go in your own time, because even prep time wasn't by force.
It wasn't.
It was a suggestion.
Compulsory.
Yeah. So you could.
It was optional.
Yeah. So you had a lot of freedom, and we didn't have a lot of extracurricular classes actually. Extracurricular things. We didn't have sports and drama and and chapel. So people would go for their chapel, but it wasn't by force. So you could do. I felt like there was a little bit more freedom.
So I enjoyed that. Other than class, what extracurricular activities did you ever participate in, apart from, of course, reading your novels and attending to adult conversations?
So I had when I was going to this one, I was smarter. So I had a tiny radio. So I took and I spent most of my pocket money buying, batteries for it. Yeah. So I'll listen to radio, I'll listen to some music, read, and mostly that. That's mostly what I used to do.
Wow.
But there was just that amount of freedom, and I did enjoy it. My classes didn't still improve. I was still an average student even there. So, but at least when I went home, my mom was like, "Are they not feeding you?" Now I was,
You were looking well fed. You were looking happy.
Yeah, and I was myself. Yeah.
Wow, incredible. Let's play your next song, Damalie.
So my next song is Wizkid, and it's called Final.
What about that song?
I love the song because
make it to your list.
it makes it to my, because I like Wizkid, but also I remember on one of my road trips, I played his entire album. It was like on replay, and I was seeing this beautiful landscape. I was traveling. I was going to Lego actually, so it's northern Uganda. It was this beautiful road, nice landscape, and Wizkid was on replay, and this song just hit it for me. So every time I listen to it, it reminds me of that road trip. Yeah.
Whiskey.
Yeah.
Well, what a way to crown a Sunday evening. I'm sure if you have one, just pop up one and you can put it on the rocks or take it neat. We'll be back. It's Desert Island Discs with Damalie Ssali.
Desert Island Discs.
Give me keys and leave. Mama do is final. We see baby Baba now. My girl wear designer.
Welcome back. It's Damalie Ssali on the program, sharing with us her life story, and what an incredible personality she is. Introverted yet talkative, silent yet loud. I mean, you're just a contradiction in the sense of the word. But here you are, you found your space and mojo in Makonzi. So you ran through your 4 years and exit. Mm-hmm. Did you go back for your high school?
No, unfortunately, they didn't have a high. They didn't have A levels. Mm-hmm. It was just senior 1 to senior 4. So I couldn't go back for my. I wish they did, because I would have gone back. But then, so after that, I went to Bugema Seventh-day Adventist School, another religious school, and I was there. I kept telling myself it's just 2 years, because these two, didn't have the triple deckers, but it had the double deckers. Mm-hmm. But I kept telling myself just 2 years, and by then.
And were they fewer?
No, it was still a lot of people.
But then you said
but I was
2 years.
Yeah, it's just 2 years. And now I'm old and wiser, so I knew the things I could do to calm myself down. Mm-hmm. So I still read a lot of novels. Actually, even though I was doing mathematics, economics, and geography, I used to go for the literature classes because I enjoyed literature classes. So I'd read the literature.
You didn't have literature classes?
No, they were there, but it wasn't my combination.
Coinciding with mathematics.
So they weren't my class. It wasn't my combination. Lit wasn't on my combination.
Yeah, but I mean, if you attend the lectures, who knows? They could be coinciding with the mathematics.
It's possible, yeah.
So, but you'd say the priority was literature.
Yeah, so I did that, and then but it was just 2 years. It was still crowded. Mm-hmm. I do remember one time I was caught in the chapel because it's a Seventh-day Adventist school. So Saturday you do nothing on Saturday. You just go and pray, then come back. You eat, then come back to the dormitory and do nothing. Like you don't do anything on Saturday, Sabbath. So I remember one time I was in a chapel one of those Saturdays, and I was always at the back. So I was at the back, and they were singing from the hymn books. Mm-hmm. So we were standing up, everyone is reading from the hymn books, but I had a lot of people covered their hymn books, yes. So I had covered my novel, and I was I had opened it up, I'm at the back. I usually used to do that. I had never been caught before. But anyway, so I was opening my novel, reading it, and I think I smiled too much because of what I was reading, that the sister saw me. So I think she was like, what is she smiling about in this hymn book? So she comes to me, and I didn't even see her, I just saw her when she got next to me, and she grabbed it, and she realized it's a novel. And that was a huge crime. I was expelled for it. So, and that was my second term of S6. Mm-hmm. And so I didn't do my mocks, for example, because I was expelled. I was at home, but they allowed me to come back and do my finals. So I went back, did my finals. But that was a massive, massive crime. It was
sacrilegious in a chapel.
In a chapel, yes.
And which novel was this, if you remember?
I can't remember.
Was it Robert Ludlum, or was it Jackie?
Probably a Sidney Sheldon, because I used to read that a lot.
I think it was a little more than Sidney Sheldon. Then give you the kind of,
like the smile?
It must have been a Jackie Collins.
It's possible.
In a chapel. On Sabbath.
Yes. Huge crime. But to be fair to me, they were long. The chapel sessions were really, really long. And huge crime anyway. So I got punishment for it.
But they were not as long as reading a whole novel. So if you could endure...
But the novel is kind of entertaining.
Okay.
and it takes me away from... I remember the chapel is also very crowded. So that took me away from...
When you go home with an expulsion note, your parents receive you. and look at your crime, no chance that you were beaten like they were extinguishing fire?
No, luckily no. So I got home. They weren't surprised about the crime I had committed.
I think they also say it's been a long time coming. We're glad it's coming second term, senior 6.
Yes.
It could have come earlier.
It could. So they weren't surprised because they know that's what I tend to do. And so I remember I got home. My dad is a very quiet person. So, but I wasn't the only one of my siblings who always get expelled. Actually, my brothers got more expelled than I ever did. So
Imbazi, right?
yes. So he was expelled oftentimes. My mom would always have to go to school to
explain it.
Yeah, to explain it. So I was like the least expelled one. So I guess my parents
Just
were
expelled twice.
yeah. So I guess my parents were kind of used to it with, I mean, having 8 kids.
So if there's 3 expulsions amongst all of 8 times 3, 24 expulsions.
Yeah. So when I came back home, so my dad, I told him, and I don't know, he didn't say anything about it. So we sat in our silence and he started joking. We talked, and it was like as if it's okay with him. Then my mom came and she was like, so my dad was like, yeah, she was expelled. Then my mom was like, why? Then my dad, yeah, she was reading a novel in the chapel. So I wasn't saying anything. He was the one answering. Like, she's reading a novel in the chapel. And then my mom was like, in the chapel? So I'm like, my dad's like, yes, in the chapel. So
all this while you're just
sitting in silence. So in the chapel. And then my mom then asked me, did you bring all your books? My dad is like, yeah, she has all her books. So
I love your dad for it now.
Then I was like, okay, I guess you'll have to study until your exams. And then my dad, yeah, she will have to. And that was it. That was
So the conversation was between the parents.
Yeah.
Never about you. Never with you.
I never said a word. And then, yeah, that was it. So I studied and I went back for my finals. The good thing is they allowed me to go back to sit for the exams. But I didn't do my mocks, for example.
So you studied all along at home?
Yeah, and I enjoyed it.
So this whole work from home stuff.
It's so new. Yeah, it totally works for me because it's on my own time. I don't have to be, following everybody else,
And how are you spending your Saturdays this time around? You avenged for the novels and read.
Yeah, I would read, and then I would mostly be in my bedroom, but then I would read. But it's just that I guess that freedom, I really enjoyed it. So yeah, that's what happened in my A-levels.
Damalie, let's play the next song.
So my next song is I'm bringing it back to East Africa. It's Diamond Platinums, and the song is called Tetema. And I like it because the first time I had it, we were in a dance class called Sukuma Dance. I go there for it's a dance class exercise. Actually, it's 1.5 hours intense. So by the time you're done, you're really sweating your calories off. So that's the first time I had it and I really enjoyed it. So every time I hear it, it reminds me of that time.
Your choice of music is so much for the beat, the enjoyment and the memories it brings than perhaps the lyrics. Funny thing, I usually listen to the beat before I hear the song, before I hear the words. The beats have to get me. Yeah, they have to get me. And then it depends on also what I'm doing at the time. Dancing, anyone ever accused you of having 2 left feet?
Not many people.
That makes you a good dancer in every sense of the word. So let's go to Tanzania and get to enjoy Tetema on a Sunday evening. When we return, it's more about your life story.
Desert Island Discs.
All right, welcome back. It's Damalie Ssali sharing with us her life story, and it's an interesting one. But also, most importantly, it's just the color mosaic around her. If you see what I'm seeing, clearly, I'm in a good space. So, Damalie, you read for your final examinations from home, in your space, you pass them, you're back to school.
Okay, no, I didn't pass my A-levels.
Yes, you couldn't have failed. Well.
I didn't pass to the degree that I could get into my career to do my course, which is quantity surveying, which I wanted to do, to be like my dad. So I didn't get that. I can't remember which course they gave me. But anyway, I wasn't interested in it at all.
Long and short is your brother shipped you away to the UK.
Yes. So
you arrived in the UK. Do you know anyone there?
My sister. So we got to the UK. Actually, he came with me to the UK because he was graduating. He was going for his graduation ceremony at Birmingham University. So we traveled together. And then we went to my sister's. First thing that hit me was the cold. I hated the cold.
You went in which month?
It was December. It was December. It was like the worst time to travel. I don't know why my brother decided to choose that. Anyway, so we got there. It was incredibly cold. And then we had this long, you know how in Uganda you used to just jumping into a taxi to go anywhere? So we get to Heathrow and we had to catch
the train
and then a bus and then, because we're going to Stratford. So it was a long journey. I felt like, I thought we'll get there, then jump into, and then,
and then you're there.
It wasn't. It was, you carrying your suitcase and then jumping onto the train and then you run to catch a bus.
Jumping in Entebbe and then you arrive in Kabari.
So it was such a long journey to my sister's house, and then we go there. My brother was in the UK for 1 week. We actually went with him to his graduation. Then he traveled back. Then I was in the UK now with my sister, and I was supposed to start studying.
What was he studying?
So my sister is she's a psychologist. She's a mental health worker, but these mental health workers who work in the office. They only do their 9 to 5 because she's at she studied it. So she does her 9 to 5. It was kind of a chilled life for her, I felt, because my second week being there, she actually told me, Damalie, you have to get a job. I'm like, really? What? David didn't tell me this, when he was bringing me. He said I'm going to come and study. But no, in the UK, you get a job. So she was like, yeah, you have to get a job for your transport, everything, your phone. So I'm like, but in Uganda, those things were being taken care of. Yeah, and I was like, this is not a wonderful deal. Like, this is not a good deal. David didn't tell me all these other things when he was bringing me over. So anyway, I got a job in my second week. So because my sister used to work in the...
What job was it?
So, because my sister used to work in the mental health industry, so she told me the easiest job then to get was to go into mental health, but not like her who does her 9 to 5 and sits in the office and just sits on a computer. Because I had no qualifications at all in that sector. Actually, I had no qualifications whatsoever. She was like, I entered at the lower end. So you go into... I used to work at this mental health facility. They call it a support home, where there are like 12 to 15 gentlemen who are recovering addicts.
Oh.
So they could be cocaine addicts, marriage addicts.
And this is only gentlemen?
Yes, just male. And they live there. So they were recovering, so they were heavily medicated. But you had to be there to support them. So they would cook for themselves, but they go into this huge kitchen where there are knives. And the first thing you do when you get there is they ask you to read their files. So you read a file and you're like, this guy is a cocaine addict. He stabbed someone. He was jailed. And then, now he's recovering. He's on this medication. Next minute, you see him in the kitchen with a knife, cooking dinner for himself. And you're like, oh my goodness, what is going to happen? So anyway, they were heavily medicated. Of course, at that time, I didn't know. So first time I get in there are these 12 gentlemen. And we used to work, because I had no qualifications, used to work the night shifts. Because the permanent workers who have qualifications, they don't work night shifts, they don't work weekends, they don't work public holidays. So those are the times we would get with the unqualified ones. So we used to do these night shifts. So I'll be in this place night and you're like 2 workers. In the night, it's just 2 workers. Then these 15 guys with their history and you're sleeping there and that's it. So I used to double, triple lock the bedroom. But I would also study, because again, the reason I was in the UK was to study. But I would study, I'd work usually night shifts, and then I made sure initially my classes were during the week, but then I changed them to be on the weekend so that I could work in the nights. And then and there's nothing permanent about it when you're unqualified. So you get the shift that just comes up. So I could be, at home and they're like, yeah, Damalie, are you available for the night shift today? And you're like, of course, I need the money. So you'd go for the night shift, even if you had a class the following day.
Wow.
You would normally, go for the night shift if I had to choose, I would go for the night shift than the class. So I realized actually I'm missing a lot of my classes, because when I do the night shift and then the following morning, you had to leave at 8:30. By the time you get to your class, it's almost 10:30, you miss most of it. So I like, okay, let me do weekend classes. So I would do then the weekend classes. But then sometimes I also call you for a night shift on a Friday night. Saturday night. And then I'll go for the night shift Friday night. Then when I'm done in the morning, I'll go to school.
Wow.
Then come back for a Saturday night shift. So I had a bit of my clothes in the workplace actually. So it was intense.
How many years did you do that for?
So no, the good thing is I did that particular work for 8 to 9 months. And while I was there was a Ghanaian lady. So every time I used to do the night shifts with her, but she would see my light on in the night because I was studying. So I'd study from the time we'd go 9 p.m. That's when they're supposed to go. And then I would study until midnight or 1. So my light would be on. But we used to share, so she could see my light through her door, because my light would go through. So one time she asked me, why is your light on always? It just disturbs me. I can't sleep when your light is coming through my door. So I'm like, oh, I'm studying. She's like, what are you studying? So I tell her, well, I'm studying SCCA. And she's like, so what are you doing here if you're studying SCCA? By then I had finished my foundation, the first 4 papers. So I'm like, well, I need money.
I need money.
Yeah. So she's like, no, I don't think if you have that, you need to be here. So she's like, I have a brother who did this. He has a fantastic job. Let me speak to him about you and see what. So the following night, I come back and she's like, yeah, I spoke to my brother. He needs to talk to you to find where are you in your studies, because she didn't know. So I spoke to him and I told him, well, I finished my foundation stage. He was like, you don't need to be there.
Come.
Do your CV, apply. You can definitely get a job by now. So I did my CV, shared it with him. He was like, yeah, it's fine. Go ahead now, apply for jobs. So he gave me some websites to actually apply, to submit my CV on. And I did, including like Michael Page, so many of them. And then I applied. And then in about 3-4 months, I actually got a job as a finance analyst. Finance analyst? Yes, that's the entry level.
Wow.
Yes.
Well, it sounds very fun.
It does. Yeah, I was an analyst. So and the analysis.
The exchequer or?
No. So it was a retail. It's called Zero Ceteris. Now bankrupt, but it was a retail company that used to sell apparel. So I would mostly do their stock. So I was their finance analyst in terms of stock. So they had all these outlets across the country, but they had to manage their inventory. And then so you would normally do the analysis on the inventory, like how much more would we need next month or next week, and how are we doing in terms of sales. Then you do the projections. So that was my entry level job.
Wow.
Yeah.
And then entry, of course, it meant.
Yes.
What were you doing with the money? Because now this meant more money.
Yes. Oh my goodness.
So,
it did mean more money.
More shopping.
So when I got now more money, the good thing is, fine, now my school was covered. Because by then now, when I had just gone, my brother David continued to pay my tuition fees. But now, since I was working and earning a little bit more, so I started paying my own tuition. And then eventually I moved out of my sister's house. So I got my own place, because now I was an analyst. I could earn more money. So I did that.
And was it still in Strathmore where you were working, or you had moved to another?
No. So I still lived in Stratford, but then this was, where was it? I can't remember where it was, but it was in East London still. That's where we used to do the stock. And then eventually we were 4 analysts who entered at entry level. I was the only Black, only African in the entire workplace.
You're kidding me.
No kidding. So, and then I realized, I remember the first couple of months I would work, and then I felt like I'm doing a lot. I'm working and submitting my reports on time, where my fellow analysts would come in, late, drunk, or hungover. Hungover. And then they'll submit their reports. So I would, then one time I made a mistake on one of my reports, and the finance manager who we're all reporting to made such a big deal out of it. It wasn't a big mistake. It was a small mistake. My colleagues had been doing these mistakes and it's all looked on easily. Yeah. So I was like, but why? I come in on time and it's a small mistake. Why are you making such a big deal about it? So we had this meeting and it was a big talking to. So after that time I went back home, but I was pretty unhappy. So, and then I used to call my mom every weekend. I would call her. So we had these calling cards, scratch cards. Yeah. They were £5 then. I don't know if they're still £5. But the entire time I was in the UK, it was £5. So I would call her.
Is there still a need for those scratch cards? Yeah. I don't even think the phone still have phones in them.
I don't think so, because now you can call on WhatsApp.
Exactly.
Yeah. So I called my mom that weekend, and she could feel in my voice that I am unhappy. I never used to talk to my dad too much because he's not a phone guy. If you call him and he's like, like he just doesn't talk on the phone. For him, no news is good news. So he doesn't know why he needs to talk to you. You're fine. Fine. So I would spend more time.
Typical dad. We all behave like that. Fine.
So I would talk to my mom. So that weekend I would call my mom. I didn't tell her anything, but she could tell from my voice that I'm not happy. So she asked me what's wrong. So I explained to her what had gone on at work. So when I'm done, complaining, everything, she's like, okay, Damalie, you have one of 2 choices. You can either stay there, feel sorry for yourself, or you need to understand that that is not your country. You're a foreigner. You need to work 4 times as hard just to be considered the same. So you're like, so you choose which one. So which one do you want? I'm like, okay, I think I want to work the 4 times as hard. They said, okay, great. Now, the other thing you have to do is to pray. So I'm like, pray? So yeah, pray. But tell you what, you work 4 times as hard, I will do the praying. So we had that deal. She was going to be praying for me as I worked hard.
The beauty of mothers.
Yeah.
You went back.
So yeah, so I went back to work, and then because of my performance, now I was literally submitting my reports before time. So the deadline is Tuesday. I'm submitting it on Monday or Friday. So, and then I'll get into work early, because now I was like, okay, how can I work 4 times as hard, like my mom said. So I had to figure out ways. So I was doing now a lot of the finance manager's job, actually, because I would ask, do you have, I would submit the report early, so do you have anything else for me to do? So he said, yeah, now consolidate. Now all we, the 4 analysts, would submit our independent reports, and then the finance manager will consolidate it and come up with a complete report to give to senior management. Now, I started consolidating my colleagues' reports for him, and then he would just get the draft and then, finalize.
Add his name?
Chris. He was called Chris. So I did.
Add his name on?
Yeah, he would sign his name, of course. I only do the draft bits. But now I was doing most of his work. And when he was leaving, he eventually left. But when he was leaving, the person he recommended could do his work was me.
Wow.
Because I was doing it anyway. And that's when I was like, it hit me like, wow, my mom was right. Like, she was incredibly right, shocking. But she was right. I've tried her thing out.
You didn't do 4 times as hard. You worked 8 times as hard. Because if you had worked 4 times, you would have been like everyone else.
Actually, yeah, come to think of it.
You doubled that and then replaced Chris.
So that's when I became then a finance manager. But soon after that, then I moved from that because now I had the work experience. I had done interior exteriors now, and usually it's easier after you get the title to move. Yeah. So when I became a finance manager, I worked there for an additional 6 months while I was looking for another job. And then I got another job as now a finance manager, but for a bigger company, much bigger than this one that I've been working with. So I moved into that company as a finance manager. At the same time, I was completing my studies because the beauty about SCCA, you
can study.
You work as you study. Because for you to become a qualified accountant or chartered accountant, you have to have the work experience. You have to submit it. So I was working as I was studying, actually. So this whole time, I am working 4 times as hard, but also studying. Did
you have any fun in the UK? Did you go to Taiwan? Did you ever?
So not so much because I was so busy. I was incredibly busy. I had to work and study. So
it's a special kind of dedication and discipline.
Yeah, it does. So I didn't have an incredible amount of social life in the UK as much as especially when I was studying and working. But then after I got to that other company, much bigger, I did the finance manager job for about 3 years. Then I moved to a bigger company. Then I was a finance director.
Wow.
Yeah, much bigger. Now I could have fun. Now I could travel around Europe because I could afford it. So and now it was like huge fun. You travel around Europe.
What about the idea to come back home? Nobody ever asked you to come back home?
So funny thing, when I was living in Uganda, even with David, I kept telling myself, I'm coming back. I'm just going there to study and I'm coming back to the country. Then when I got there, I definitely confirmed that I need to go back to Uganda because first thing that hit me was the weather. I don't like the cold. I've been there for ages, but I still have a problem with the cold. Then the food is a problem.
I know. Yeah,
I want my toke, my luwombo, my lumonde. And then you get there and the food is tasteless. So for the first year, actually, I was in the UK, I lost a lot of weight because I struggled to find anything to eat. Until I discovered the Jamaicans. Then I started buying the Jamaican food because it was closer to what we eat. Yeah, so you buy that. But it's still a struggle because you can't find it anywhere. And then the other thing, I used to work in a lot of places that were very white. So there weren't barely any Africans.
So the idea for you of a sandwich for lunch, just bread.
You have a sandwich. By the way, I can do you a mean sandwich because I started doing my own sandwiches because it was efficient to do your own sandwich and and besides that's all you could buy. I could eat is a sandwich. So I started doing my own sandwich. So I do a fantastic sandwich.
Wow.
Yeah.
Try one.
A BLT. So I can totally do that for you. But strangely, since I come back to Uganda, I don't eat sandwiches at all. But so from the point I went, I knew I needed to come back to Uganda. But each year you keep putting it off because I don't know, you're so busy.
There's something you
want to do. So you're so busy. So I remember in 2011, I decided after being a finance director, I had gotten to really the top of where you can really get to as an African Black woman. I mean, there were very few even, white women in the finance sector.
Yes.
So, and even at that level. So at some point I was like, okay, fine. Now I have a lot of money. I've been doing this for a while, but I want to take some time out. Let me, relax a bit. So I took a sabbatical, 2-year sabbatical.
And went where?
So I decided to do my MBA in that period. So I went to France to study my MBA. Went to Grenoble in France, and it's a holiday town. I told myself, I'll study, chill for 2 years of my sabbatical as I study, and then, travel around Europe for a bit. So I went away for 2 years, but I was in France for the first year because it's an MBA. The first year is study, then the next year is research. So my first year, I was in France doing my studies, and I remember the last month I was there for the physical studies, my mom had a stroke. So she was paralyzed from the neck down, but her head was incredibly intact. So I would call her. In fact, when she just had a stroke, I called and said, that's it, I'm returning. But because I had been updating her about my studies, remember I used to talk to her every weekend, so she knew where I was. This last month was exams, physical exams. These are not, exams you submit on, online.
Physical.
You had, physical. And if you miss one of them or any of them, you have to wait until the next year to do it before you do your research. So when she had a stroke, and then the good thing is she had the stroke, but maybe 3 days later she could talk. So I called her, tell her, that's it, I'm heading home. She's like, no, Damalie, you're not a doctor. What are you coming to do here? I don't want you to waste the whole year waiting just because you couldn't finish your exam. So you're not a doctor. I have the best doctors here. Finish your exams, then you can come. So I don't want to see you if you haven't finished your exams. So I'm like, okay. So I was like, okay.
Mom was a militant.
Yes, she was. So anyway, so I remember my last exam. So I had my last exam was supposed to end at midday, 10 to midday. And then my flight was at 2. And I was going to come, yes. But the night before my last exam, my mom passed away, but no one told me because they knew I had my exam the following day. So I did my exam not knowing anything. When I was at the airport, I called my brother Kafero because he's the one who always used to pick me up at the airport. I called him and I told him, okay, I'm getting on a flight to Heathrow because I want to take British Airways because it's one way to Uganda, but I had to go to Heathrow first. So I go to Heathrow. I call him when I'm at Heathrow. I'm like, that's it. I'm boarding the plane. I'm coming. So this time I'm arriving. You need to remember to pick me up. He's like, yeah, don't worry. What time exactly are you coming? I tell him. My mom passed away, but they're not telling me. So I arrived. I arrived in Uganda around 1 at Entebbe, and he was there in the night. In the night. Is that AM? That's AM. So I arrived at 1, and then I come, and because he's the one who always picked me up, he's very tall. So usually I just look at the tops of people's heads and you can see him. So I came out, and then, people are just there. When you come, they're just there. Exactly. So I get to the airport, and then I see him there, and he was just looking straight through me. He just couldn't see me. So I come like, hello. And he's not seeing me. So I get closer to him. That's when he realizes it's me. And in between, it was just a few seconds. I was like, why is he not recognizing me? Then, oh my goodness, what has happened to mom? Then he saw me and his face changed into another sad face. I knew my mom had passed away. He didn't even have to say anything. Yeah. So I get to him and he just grabs my bags, and he just grabs my bag, my arm, and then we walk to the car. Silence. Didn't say anything. Then in the car, that's when he told me. And it was more of a confirmation. I didn't ask, but it was more of a confirmation. So we drive home from the airport about 30 minutes. We get to Makere Kavule, and then I get in, and there were just people in the compound, all over the compound. I walk in, I see my dad. He was just there sitting on one of these chairs, and he was sitting alone, poor guy. He was just sitting alone there. So I walked to him, and we didn't say a word. We just sat there in silence. Then eventually he was like, okay, tugendola be mama. Then we went to the living room, and there was my mom in the living room there on the table. They opened the casket. I saw her. And so at 2, I'm seeing her, like 2 in the morning. That's when I'm seeing her. First of all, I just found out she's passed away. I see her. She's lying there, motionless. Then
I had spoken to her a couple of days earlier.
Exactly. So I was like, wow, what was happening? There were people all over. And then you feel, again, my introverted self, I'm like, I need space. I need quiet. So I went to my sister's bedroom, and that's where I was. I remember crying. I don't remember falling off asleep, but I just remember me seeing her, then crying, and then in the morning, 7 in the morning, my sister was waking me up. She said, "Okay, Damalie, zuku kabu suti yo chiko ichi we are going to to the village for the burial." Now, I didn't realize that we're burying her the following day, but remember she had passed away the night before, yes. And so they had done the prayer at our church at Makere Kavule at Chipipa. There is a church, I think it's called St. John's. But anyway, so they had done the prayer that day. So when I arrived, it was the Lumbe. So the following day, we're going to the village. I didn't know that until my sister was waking me up at 7 saying, Damalie, get your busuti, we're going to the village. That's when it hits me, because of course, the burial happens in the village. So I'm like, what? I didn't have enough time. So I was really angry at my family, angry at her for not waiting for me. Like it was just one extra night.
She actually waited.
I guess.
Because again, if you had taken the flight then when you spoke to her, possibly you'd be arriving the day she's dying.
True, yeah. Actually. So then we go to the village. The village isn't far. It's like 40 minutes from Makere Kavule. It's near Bombo. Okay. So we were riding behind the hearse, and the hearse is in front of us. And then I kept saying, I wish it could slow down. We're almost getting to the village, and we know what happens in the village. And so we went through Bwaise, Kawempe, and usually there's traffic there, so I was kind of okay with. Then after that, there's just no traffic. It's just, I kept thinking, slow down. Why are we rushing? Anyway, we get to the village, and then they do the prayer. And at 2 p.m., usual time people bury, 2 p.m., she was in the ground. So at 2, the night before, I realized found out she's died, and then 2 following day we were burying her.
Interred.
Yeah, and that was that. So after that, I decided to stay, because remember I had just finished my physical exam, so it was my research that I needed to do. So I was like, you know what, let me stay in Uganda. My dad is very close to me, and when my mom passed away, men, they usually die after their parents, they always
Shortly
pass away.
after.
Yeah. So I decided to say, I was like, okay, I'll be with him, we grieve our pain, and then I'll do my research. So that's when I decided I'll do my research in Uganda. So I stayed to do my research while we grieve. So I stayed at home and we would grieve. And then I submitted my proposals to URA. It was on innovation management. So I submitted my proposal to URA and to Trademark East Africa. They both accepted.
Wow.
Then I was a bit stuck, because I'm like, I need to do one of you, not both.
And yet you have gone either way.
So I asked my supervisor, and he was like, okay, can you send me the profiles of these 2 companies? So I did. So we can choose. I did. I sent it to him, and then he comes back to me and said, wow, Damalie, this is really, really exciting, because, these are 2 interesting companies. If you did both, you would get a distinction based on your first grades. So I'm like, really? So yeah, it's up to you, but you would definitely get a distinction if you did both. So I'm like, that's not helpful. Anyway, so I did both. Wow. And I'm grieving. I'm doing 2 research that I don't need 2 of them. And that's what and then I was working. Also, Trademark then decided that when I'm doing their research, I had to
work with them.
Yeah, I had to work with them. So I was in there working with them, doing my research on 2 companies.
And what work are you doing with them? Financial analysis? Or?
No. That's the beauty about the MBA. So when I came here in Uganda, because I used to work, my work was so specialized. So I used to work in the financial sector. I worked with one of the largest hedge funds in the UK. So when I got here, there's no work for individuals like myself. So in Trademark is trade facilitation. And I thought, wow, that's an interesting area. But besides, I'm going to do my research on them. So as I was doing more research, I was getting more interested. So and they are in trade facilitation. So that's what I did. And I had no interest in getting to the finance department, because it's not the kind of finance I do anyway. So
long and short, you are now at Trademark East Africa?
Yes.
And seated at the pinnacle of the office in Uganda.
Yes.
How has the career path of growth and development been for you?
I think it's been really interesting, because I've grown from the lowest rank inside Trademark into to the top. But the journey has been more for me about knowing more about Uganda, wanting to do more for Uganda, my country. And because I have a lot of external experience, I have more knowledge and information than any job can actually use. So that's when, in fact, I decided that, I'm going to do the Ideation Corner, because the Ideation Corner kind of touches what I studied. It's on innovation, entrepreneurship and stuff. So I was like, so I have all this knowledge. I did a whole MBA on it because I was interested in
I may as well share
So I was like, let me share it, and let me provide this platform where I can showcase to Ugandans, other Ugandans who are doing things. Maybe it can inspire them, in my own small way. I was like, let me do that. So that's when I actually studied the Ideation Corner. And it uses a lot of my intellectual capacity in a way that another, I would say, Trademark East Africa can't use that knowledge anyway. So, and I find that incredibly fulfilling, because I feel like I'm helping or trying to help. I'm not helping as much as, because when I was leaving I got my distinction, by the way. And when you do get a distinction, yes, it was interesting, because my dad was like, wow, I can't believe this is a Damalie who never liked to study. But I got my distinction. Then when you get a distinction, you're interviewed by one of the magazines called Business Because. So they interviewed me, and I remember in that, one of the things I told them, so they were like, so you're done here, what are you going to do? I'm like, okay, that's it, I'm going back to my country. And then they're like, what, you're going back to Africa? They call Africa
one country.
Yeah, they're shocked I'm going back to Africa with all my knowledge and information. They're like, what? So I'm like, yeah, I want to help my people. We have a lot of opportunities, they're young, we have a lot of stuff. So, but the biggest problem they have is maybe finance, and they have a lot of innovative ideas. So one of the things I mentioned in that interview was that so what are you going to do about it? And I was still dreaming. I was like, okay, I want to set up a venture capital fund in Uganda to give Ugandans who are innovative ideas capital to try them out, because a lot of innovative ideas are risky.
Of course.
So a bank
you need
won't
someone to give them, and the bank wouldn't give them the money.
The bank won't give you the money. So a venture capital fund allows for that, because it understands the risk is high. It knows maybe 40% of that money won't come back, but they're willing to take a chance on that because they know that's the business. So it's because a lot of innovative ideas have to be tried out. When they try it out first, they fail, but the next time they've learned. So they
perfect them.
Yeah. So that's what I wanted to do. Anyway, of course, when I came here, I started working for Trademark East Africa, which is great. There's a lot of impact there. But after some time, I was like, but I'm not even doing anything on this venture capital thing. Of course, I don't have the money to do that, even if I wish to, but I could start. I could start by just showcasing these Ugandans who are innovative. Then eventually maybe I could grow it. So I still have that dream of setting up a venture capital fund.
Wow,
Yeah.
that's very interesting. Let's play the next song. When we return, it's now about you and the
Yes.
personality profile. What will be your next song?
So my next song is Ricardo Banks, and the song is called Rora. I like it because I remember was it a Saturday or a Sunday? I was sitting right here in my living room and I was watching Tres Miziki, and then the song came on. I was just very happy that day. I still don't know what I was happy about, but I was happy. So then the song came on and I like just the beat.
It's just blended through your happiness.
Yeah,
and
it's very my happiness. So every time I hear it, I remember my happy day. I still don't remember what I was happy about, but I was happy.
Let's take part of that infectious happiness for a Sunday evening and roll into this song. When we return, we conclude the program.
Desert Island Discs.
Yes, it's Damalie Ssali. That's her life story. It's an incredible life story, one that denied her the privilege of being in her country in her formative teenage years, making real friends in later part of your life. And that brings me to one question. Do you actually have friends in Uganda, considering that you've studied much of your adult education in the UK? So
yes, I do have a couple of friends. There are very few.
A couple is actually one, two,
It's
right?
1, 2, yes. And Sandra Chirenga is one of my friends.
Oh,
and then I also work with her. So
so it has to be someone that you see across the desk.
No, I have to connect because I have other people I work with who I wouldn't say they're my friends, they're my colleagues, definitely. But she's my very good friend. So yes, I do have very few friends. I can count them.
So the bulk of your friends are in the UK. Are you still in touch with them?
Yes, I am still in touch with them. Electronically, of course, because initially I would travel to the UK quite often, but nowadays I don't. So after 2017, I kind of settled in Uganda, and I'm not trying to travel back to the UK often. So,
and having settled in Uganda, a gorgeous lady like yourself, with the academic, accolades that you have to yourself, a beautiful job, I'm sure you meet this question quite very often.
What's the question?
It's quite very stereotypical, but well, we have to deal with it.
Yeah, it happens. Strangely, not from my family. I don't know why they never ask me.
They know, but not to ask.
But from a lot of people, but who are never necessarily very close to me, they ask. But I don't know when I will. I had a very long-term relationship in the UK, but when I relocated 2016, it kind of ended because, well,
you couldn't sustain it over Bluetooth.
Yeah, it was long distance is a struggle. So it ended then, and in Uganda I haven't met anyone yet.
Yeah, because of how you sound. I mean,
how do I sound?
With a good accent.
Why is that a problem?
Why is it a problem? Very nice, dear. Damalie. Have you tried it out? When you speak to many people, I mean, many see the housing, and then you speak. Do you realize some people get closer to you, or others drop further away from you? Or you're blind to that?
No, not necessarily. Actually, I've met several Ugandans who would even think I'm not Ugandan, despite my name, Damalie Ssali. Like, how more Ugandan can you be when you call it Damalie Ssali? But they sometimes think I'm not Ugandan, and so now I find myself.
The hair, or you ever ask them?
Probably. But they usually say it's the way I talk, which is unfortunate because I can't change the way I talk. I wish I could, because I usually feel like I'm disowned by my own people. A Ugandan is thinking you're not Ugandan just because of the way you talk. They even ignore your name. So I feel usually like disowned and upset. So nowadays I speak a lot more Luganda to let people know, ndimu na you. Like, honestly. And I usually say them, ndimu na you.
And even the way you say it possibly also has a bit of a twang to it.
So even that is discounting.
Exactly. So I mean, Damalie. And what do you do to relax, to let your hair down? I mean, you seem to have so much going for yourself. Although, of course, when we started the conversation, you were quick to say you love what you do for a job, and therefore in the job you find relaxation. But that's not enough.
So yes, I do find, I find that you find time to do the things you enjoy. So I love to travel. So I've been traveling around Uganda for a while now, and it was a very conscious decision I made, because I had traveled around the world in a way. I've been to the US, and then I've been to Venice, to Florence, to Nice, to Monaco, Dubai. I've been to so many places. But then when I came to my country, I'd basically been in Kampala, Makere, Kavule, to the village, which is just 30 minutes away, kind of.
Bombo.
Bombo, and then my mom's village, which is in Wakiso. Those are the only places I knew. So I was like, but how can you be Ugandan and you haven't traveled around your country, but you had the audacity to travel to Nice, to Monaco? What is wrong with you? This is your country. So I started traveling around Uganda I started a while ago, but nowadays I'm documenting it. So when now I travel, I record so other people can see it. So I said I do love to travel, so I find time for that. Then I do enjoy, exercise and, dancing. That's why I go for my Sukuma classes with my one friend. And then, so I do love that. Then I watch a lot of TV. I do watch a lot of TV.
I read a lot of books.
And then I read a lot of books, yes. Books are still my good friend. So I still, find time to read books. I'm lately studying about psychology. Philosophy. Studying more about philosophy. It's the study of life, I found out recently. So I read a lot of philosophical books because I realize that we spend all our, maybe first 23 years in school studying to become an accountant, studying to become whatever it is you want to become. But then we never study how to live life. And yet the only thing you're ever going to do is live. So why don't we study that?
Someone says a living or a life doesn't come with a user manual.
Exactly.
Just words.
You just work. But you could also study more about philosophy to learn how other people have lived life, so that you can just pick out those nuggets and say, okay, now my life, I need to live it this way to make sure. But the good thing is these people had to experience all this stuff, go
First
through them.
time.
But you can jump those mistakes. So now I read a lot of philosophical books. And one thing I found, a quick one, is that the one thing that people, man, I don't know why they call him man or woman, ever looks for in life is to be happy. So when you're looking for that good job because you think it will make you happy.
Pursuit of happiness.
Exactly. But then we don't know how to be happy because we haven't studied philosophy.
Because even when you get the happiness, that's the beginning of a new journey for
another. So now as I'm reading, I realize, so when does it end? When do I end looking for this happiness that is never really
when
happiness?
You get the end of the book.
So they're like, okay, when you start being happy about your current life, irrespective of where it is, that's when you kind of discover happiness.
I saw a picture at a friend's office of a lady carrying firewood with beads of perspiration on her face, but with a broad smile. Of course, half her teeth were missing. The available ones had discolored. And this guy in curating that picture to me says, every time I'm stressed, I walk out of my desk and walk to that picture and look at it. Because I'll tell you something about this picture, Simon said, this woman's biggest struggle is getting her next meal. Everything else doesn't matter. So if I think I'm stressed because I need a good car, please, my children.
That is.
There are people who the next meal
is an issue.
Is their only worry. Everything else,
too good.
Food was one of those challenges you faced when you went to the UK. What's your favorite dish now?
So I have several dishes. I love pork.
How do you love it?
Is, you're
Luombo, right?
No. I've never eaten. By the way, people have been telling me that there is pork luombo. I've never eaten that.
Complete with the hooves of it.
I want that. So I eat molokonyi. I eat pork, usually fried chukalai. I like that. And I try to order that one. Jimmy, food, don't do that. It's not the same. So then I like, of course, I do the meat luombo, mostly Ugandan food. And chicken, yes, the luombo chicken I like.
And the carbs, what do you make? Because for us,
no.
Emva is not food.
No.
The mere, then Emva.
The mere, okay. Matoke, lumonde. I like posho, but only if it comes with binyewa with the dry fish. Then I can eat.
So normally you order for your sauce. You say mere yona. They put the mosaic.
So I've been eating a lot of Ugandan food, but my first love is definitely pork. So wow. I can eat pork by itself.
How do you wash it down? What's your favorite drink?
Coffee? So coffee is a staple. Like every day I have to have coffee. Interesting story about coffee is that I discovered coffee while I was in the UK. Because I was working so hard and you just have this instant coffee.
This is what keeps you going.
Yes. And then when I would come back and then I'll see Ugandan coffee, I'm like, really, what's that about? So I started having Ugandan coffee. And then I realized what I'm having is crap. So I would travel back with a lot of Ugandan coffee, but then it would always run out. My suitcase would just be full of Ugandan coffee, then it will run out. But now that I'm here, my goodness, I've been having incredible coffee. Wow. So I love coffee. And then I do for drink, I do UG cocoa. I love UG cocoa because it doesn't give me a hangover. Interestingly, it never gives me a hangover. So you
Depends on how much you take, but
no. So you could go out for cocktails this evening, and then tomorrow you're up in the office working very, very well. So I find it as a very efficient drink.
Damalie, what gives you a good laugh?
A lot of things. Funny people. I like funny people.
So these comedian shows.
No, not that funny, but a person, a human being,
Okay.
having humor.
Not Rowan Atkinson, Mr. Bean, and all that.
Well, okay, of course I find those funny, but that's the first happiness or joy I get is when someone is actually funny. And my dad and my mom were both funny people. They have their different kinds of humor. My dad is much more sarcastic. My mom is just, was
Straight in your face.
Yeah, she's just really funny. So she would say things seriously, but they'll be really funny. Wow. So I used to like her. So I like that personal humor. In fact, for me to get to me, you kind of need. That's how I open up.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, it's you have to be able to make me laugh, but I don't laugh at anything.
I'll take that for a compliment. It means we'll be speaking for us now.
You're making me laugh.
What gives you a sad face? Or what makes you angry?
Several things. Some of them are petty, like people not keeping time, or telling me I'll be. Look at you. Or people telling me I'll be here between 12 and 4 p.m. You're like, what is it? Make up your mind. But the other thing.
That's how we travel here in Uganda.
I realized that. It just does it for me. I'm beginning to, I think, be more calm about it because now I know it.
Before I
would just be like, what? Where are you? And then you're like, Ndiwano. Like, where is Ndiwano? Where is it?
That.
And then they spend an hour. They're just about to get there. So.
And then an hour later they call you for directions.
And they're now telling you the real place. So, but that's okay. That's mine. But the things that normally make me sad is people not having information that could help them. Something as simple as information, actually. So, and usually most people are just disenfranchised because they don't have the information. Unfortunately, in our world here in Uganda, a lot of people don't have information because they don't have access to it. You do not have a smartphone, you won't get, an education right now, actually. Like our kids, some kids are getting an education during lockdown, some kids are not. They're not. That's, stuff that you can't access.
My daughter is in her 3rd year of P2.
She's in the same class. So those kind of things, the social injustices, I think the inequalities, those are the ones that kind of make me sad. But then I try to do, if I can, I do something about it.
You told me that you are apolitical.
Apolitical, yes.
Maybe because politics is one of the things that makes you angry. Because what you just described here is a function of dysfunctioning politics.
I suppose if you want to paint it,
or should we not
if you want to put a political, but still, I think irrespective of your politics, because you could say this is the politician I want, and even if they do get in power, there's some things that they still can't do that will be entirely bring social equity. So usually now what I do is I find spaces within which I say, okay, there's nothing I can do about the politics or the environment, but there's something I can do personally. So I can't do anything about those policies that I don't necessarily like, but what can I do personally? Who is my next person who I can help? Now I have this issue about social injustice, about information. That's why personally I took the responsibility to say, okay, I have this knowledge, how can I share it? That's why I did the Ideation Corner. So I try to not be angry, and I just say, okay, what can I do? And I wish more people did that, because if each and every one of us decided, okay, fine, there's a government and there's those politics, but what can I do? And everyone did what they can do.
So the collective sum of these efforts would be something huge.
Be huge. So
where we see Damalie therefore in the next 5 years, 10 years, maybe even 20 years?
I have no idea.
Like they say, short term, medium term, long term. On the ballot paper somewhere?
No ballot papers. I have no idea where I'll be.
Rotary Club presidency.
Unless I'm just, I'm not good. Like unless I'm nominated and I'm like, yeah, Damalie, you're going to be, then I'll do it.
That's me. I've actually gotten to a point where I think I'm not even ever going to apply for a job. Like, just pick me up.
You need to be headhunted and say, this is it. This is it. Yeah. Have it. So I think, that's
because usually you're looking for a job or a political office, and the people that are going to take you there are way below par and don't understand what it takes for the person there to do, and yet you're going up there to do for them and with them. Let me not talk about myself. It's about you.
Yes.
So 5 years time.
So here's my thing. I'm a very simple person. I honestly don't know where I'll be in 5 years, but I hope in 5 years, 10 years, 20 years, I'm happy.
You're already happy now.
Yeah, okay. I want to maintain happy. Yeah, so that's my entire goal. I just want to be happy.
I'm asking you this question as the first person ever on this program to be asked this question.
What's the question?
Here we go. Brace yourself. Is there something about you that nobody knows that they will get to know tonight?
I can't think of any.
Demand, honesty, brutal, candor. In fact, you can be as abrasive as it gets, but keep it within the realm of truth. God is watching you.
Oh God. What is it?
Clearly, even this you don't know about yourself.
I can't think of anything. First break. Sandra, what is it that people don't know?
Even Sandra wouldn't know.
But sometimes you know stuff I don't know about myself. What is it? They're recording it.
We'll maintain that. Like I said, it's the first time we're asking this question. We've been thinking about it as a staple on the program.
It's an interesting one. How can I be so stuck? I'm usually quick at answer. Like, you know, my brain is usually. But what could possibly people not know? I don't know.
And I thought of something, then he said something.
Oh no! Go back. Stop laughing. Remember it. Honestly.
Do all of us know that you have this heavy craving and liking for shoes? High heel shoes, for example.
Oh my God. I love shoes. It's a bit of a problem. I love shoes.
How deep is your love for shoes?
Oh, it's intense in that.
Would you forfeit if there was a shoe to buy that you like and it's kalai of pork, your favorite dish? Like, would you forfeit your favorite dish to buy a great pair of shoes?
That's a tough one. But yeah, chikalai or this shoe, for example, I think I would go for the shoe.
That's it. Thank you for the time on the program. Now we know you. Damalie Ssali, it's been incredibly pleasant for us to have you on the program.
Thank you.
Sharing your life story the way you have. We can only say we wish you more and more happiness.
Thank you.
Wish us the same.
I wish you all happiness.
And there's only one way you can do that tonight. Play us your last song.
So my last song is by Jay-Z and Beyonce. It's called Pray. And yeah, it's interesting. So anyway, I was listening, this was the time in the UK when his album, you know, American Gangster came out with the movie. But I kept, because I tend to listen to entire albums. I don't listen to songs.
To one song.
So I listened to, so I was playing this music and this album, I was on the train, it was cold, and I just really liked it. But then this song, Pray, I liked it because the chorus is pray for me. And I usually ask people to pray for me because I'm not a very good prayer. Yeah, so I usually ask, pray for me. I don't do it for myself. I don't pray for myself.
That's a David dream, but he prays for me.
He's probably, I hope he's praying for me.
I think it's worse than you praying.
He doesn't hear you say that.
We will certainly enjoy this song. I'm sure there's one guy I'm comfortably sure he's praying for you now.
Who?
Your dad.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's been a pleasure having you on the program.
Let's
enjoy your song. And of course, a wonderful way to end a Sunday evening is at least with a prayer.
Absolutely.
After which then you can go for your shots of UG photo and everything else that makes you happy. But yes, for now, it's been a pleasure having Damalie Ssali. But even more for you, our listeners, who could have been anywhere doing anything, but you chose this time to be here, get inspired and listen to life's incredible stories from an ordinary folk like her. But guess what? Her story, you'll agree with me, is extraordinary. We'll be back next Sunday, same time, same place, with yet another story as we know best how to bring them to you. Good night, and God bless.
Desert Island Discs.
Close your eyes and you can pretend you're me. A cut from the club for the Kennedys. Frank Sinatra having dinner with the Genevieve.
Desert Island Discs.
But yeah, chikalai or this shoe, for example, I think I would go for the shoe.
That's it. Thank you for the time on the program. And now we know you. Damalie Ssali, it's been incredibly pleasant for us to have you on the program.
Thank you.
Sharing your life story the way you have. We can only say we wish you more and more happiness.
Thank you.
wish us to stay here.
I wish you all happiness.
And there's only one way you can do that.
Desert Island Discs.